Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome, friends, to episode number 43 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. Today, I am sharing with you a conversation with one of my mentors, Andee Love. Andee Love is a highly trained embodiment facilitator, speaker, and healer. She is the founder of SoulFlow Embodiment, which focuses on practices for deep connection to self and spirit and developing sustainable success in life and business. She holds a master's degree in Transpersonal Counseling Psychology from Naropa University and has made it her mission to redefine how the coaching world is teaching the ways to success and co-creating. I can't wait for you to hear our conversation today about her journey, embodiment, success as an entrepreneur, and burnout. So let's dive in. All right. So I'm so excited, Andee, to have you on. For those that don't know, she is a coach of mine, a mentor of mine, and I have been in her mastermind program for the last, I don't know, how long has it been? Like,
almost
9 months, 10 months, 11 months, almost a year.
Yep.
And just starting up in her Love Vibe Facilitator program. But I thought it would be an amazing time to share a little bit about who she is, because she's had such an influence on my journey. And I know many of you are curious about the retreats that I go on, the things that I'm doing. I'm living this double life. And I think that, today's the day to pull back the veil on, what it's all about, why it's not just this beautiful kind of retreat vacation thing. We are really doing healing work. This is serious stuff. But also why it's such important work and why, having gone through it, I believe in it so much. And Andee is the perfect person to teach us all about it. So my first question, I kind of wanted to just start off with having people getting a sense of your journey in becoming an embodiment facilitator, a healer, a coach, all the things. So kind of how did you come to this?
Yeah, it's so funny. The other day I was sharing on something and kind of my journey. And I was like, I've been doing this work for half my life. And then I was like, whoa, like that's crazy, because I'm not very old. I'm 40. I just turned 40. And so to say that I've been like studying or in this work for half my life was kind of an eye-opening moment for me of like, wow, this has been a real true commitment. And, the journey started really about 20 years ago. I had been dealing with a lot of chronic pain and struggling really deeply with some depression and some anxiety, some of it triggered by post-traumatic stress from a really bad car accident as a teenager. So there was a lot of layers. And I think at that point in my life, I was seeking a different way. I was looking for better answers and solutions than what I was being given. And I honestly was just really exhausted from feeling bad, and found myself wandering into like a kind of metaphysical bookstore. I saw like some crystals in the window and some things that kind of just like piqued my interest and was like, oh, those are pretty. And when I got into that store, I found a book on the chakras, and that kind of started this path for me of, what is energy in your body and what is all this stuff? And so I think at the time, the seeking came from a place of desperation, and then it really became something that just amplified. And so I ended up getting my master's level Reiki 17 years ago. And then from there, I just knew like, I want to teach people how to really get into their bodies. And it's kind of a weird thing, right? Like, what does that even mean? But like, I really want to teach people to understand the language that the body speaks. And so I became a really devoted student to a lot of different modalities, and I started to apply them to my own life. And now here we are, 20 years later, and I've turned this into a career and a business, but really, my legacy of like just creating this type of imprint on the world. And so here we are in my body and talking about it, which is really cool.
Did you know that embodiment was your thing? Like, when did that actually happen? Because I think, for a lot of the listeners, everyone's like, what is my thing? Do I have a thing? I haven't been doing my thing for 20 years. But I think sometimes you don't realize that you have been doing something. You just don't know what it's called, or you haven't kind of had A plus Z equals D and realize that that special combination is uniquely you. But what did that journey look like for you to kind of start owning that as part of the mission you had in this world, or the impact that you wanted to have on this world?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely, it wasn't until probably like 2 years ago that I was like, oh, wait, I've been actually doing this for a very long time. My career, and this is my career, but like when I think about like what we traditionally think, like, what do we go to school for? And like, what do we get our degrees in? My education was in psychology. So, I have undergrads in psychology and art therapy. I was an autism specialist. I worked as a therapist. I worked as a family therapist. And I was always kind of the eclectic one in my jobs, right? So I was always the one that was like a little different, or people would say, oh, you really like think outside the box, or you're the creative. And what I realized is that I was doing energy work and embodiment work the entire time. So my connection with people was really rooted in this idea of being connected with myself first. And then in that connection with myself, being able to extend a deeper connection with people. Or especially with my work with kids. I worked with kids diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and it's a spectrum disorder. So some of my clients would be, nonverbal, and they would need to communicate their needs through different ways. And then, it was spectrum. So then some clients could clearly communicate their needs, but maybe they struggled with something else. And what I found was that the more present that I could be with them, the easier it was for that communication to take place. But the present started with me being present with me. And so when I think back now of like what I was doing, even as a volunteer in high school, and like my first job in college, and then my first job out of college, and then my first job with that bachelor's and that master's, that, all of the work that I was doing with people was rooted in this idea of like being in the present moment. Yeah. And then a couple years ago, I'm like, I moved, and I'm in this coaching space, and I'm coaching people, and I'm doing, high level business coaching. And I'm realizing that as I'm sitting with my clients, I'm doing the same thing I've been doing for years in my, quote unquote career. It just looks different. And I'm like, this is embodiment. This is what this means. Oh my goodness. So now I can say I've been doing this for 20 years, but if you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have said, there's no way. So yeah.
Yeah. So we're saying embodiment. We're saying embodiment. What do you think of when you think of embodiment?
Yeah. So for me, there's 2 parts to it. So the first part is really being just in the present moment. Like, I really believe that in order to be like, feel our physical body, you have to be dropped into the present moment. And so what does that mean? It means not worrying about what's going to happen in the future, and not feeling into something that has happened in the past, right? So a lot of times we'll be split, right? We'll be worrying about something or thinking about something that has hurt us or harmed us, or maybe didn't go the way we wanted in the past. Or we'll be worrying about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in the future? Is this thing going to happen? Is this thing going to, is this good thing going to happen? Is this bad thing going to happen? And when we do that, we get out of the present moment. And so is frequent, and as long as we can stay in the present moment, then I feel that is my description of embodiment. The other flip side of that is also being able to understand the language that our body speaks. which is in feelings and sensations and emotions, and not necessarily having to identify or make sense of those things, but just being aware of the presence of these different dynamics to our human experience. And so when we can stay really grounded in this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment, while also acknowledging sensations and feelings, then we're embodied. And so it's about really moving out of the thinking mind and moving into the soul mind. And that's kind of the way that I describe it. And it is a practice. And it's not something that I am doing 100% of the time at all. If 50% is a good day, 50% is a good day, but it's about having the intention of staying really grounded. And then in that, we have a more conscious awareness in the way that we interact, in the way that we make decisions, in the way that we spend time with our loved ones or our family, or the way that we show up in our business or our careers. And we're not operating from autopilot, but more from this place of intentionality.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's funny that you say the present moment and but really being in and aware of the feelings and sensations and the language, right, that our body is speaking. I think when I first thought about embodiment, I thought of it as a lot of this physical sense of this, like, how do you show up in the world, and how do you step into the role that you want to play, or how do you step into that leader that you want to be? How do you step into the life that you want to live? Kind of from this place of this like manifestation and creation, co-creation, and acting as if, and all of that tied in. So what are your thoughts around that aspect of embodiment? Do you see that they're all related, or do you see that as a different component?
Yeah, no, I mean, I say co-creation. So I use the word co-creation and manifestation interchangeably. They're the same thing, but I really like to speak I like to use the word co-creation because it holds me responsible for the part that I play in the process, right? So that it's not like some, magical thing where it's like what we want just falls from the sky. If anyone has that method, please teach me, right? We have to do nothing. We just sit back, right? But when we talk about co-creation, there's an active part. We play an active part in the process. And so it's very much the same thing. So acting as if. So how do we act as if, right? So if I want to, walk into a boardroom and I want to I want people to perceive me as like very confident and very knowledgeable, like I need to present myself in a certain way. But if I'm not understanding where maybe my doubt or my insecurity is living in my body, then it's going to be really hard. So we hear a lot of times like the phrase, fake it till you make it, which can be great, right? Like, I'm just going to fake it till I make it. But what are we then telling ourselves, right? And so for me, it's like, okay, what part of myself doesn't believe that this is possible? Where does that energy live at in my body? And then what can I do to actually transmute and alchemize that energy so that then I can carry myself in this, embodied presence, or I can visualize what does it feel like, and what would it feel like in my body to, be this high level executive, or what would it feel like in my body to be a New York Times bestseller, or what would it feel like in my body to, hit that huge sales goal for my company, and starting to pay attention to that. And that then becomes part of the manifestation co-creation process. So I think that they go hand in hand, but a lot of times what happens is they're not aware of where their limitations, they think the limitation is just in the mind. And although, yes, right, our thought is in the mind, there's often a sensation or a feeling that limitation brings up. So I can't do it. And then maybe that I can't do it is a clenching sensation in your stomach or a tightening in your chest. And so what we want to do is notice where those limitations live so that we can start to understand what they feel like. And then we can start to move and transmute that.
So what practices do you use to tune in, right? What are some simple things people can do? Because I think that there are many folks who are like, I think I know I am in my body, but some of them might not, or they might not ever have thought about how connected am I to my body. So how, what are practices you use to keep grounded? What are practices you use to tune in to the present moment, to what's going on in your body?
So the easiest one, it's free and we all have access to it, hopefully, is our breath. So that's the first thing, like just being aware of your breath. Like like we don't even think, a lot of us don't really even think about the fact that we're breathing. Like we're breathing right now. You're breathing, I'm breathing. Hopefully the listeners are breathing, right? And so breath is my go-to. Whenever I just am like I have a million things to do, I'm running around. I'm like, just stop for 5 seconds and take a breath. 5 seconds, 1 minute, 10 deep breaths, right? In and out. So that's one tool for me that just helps me get dropped in. And when I'm taking the breath, I'm consciously taking the breath. So I'm feeling the breath come in. I'm feeling the abdomen expand and contract. Noticing what it feels like as if I'm taking an inhale through the nose, noticing what it feels like if the exhale is coming out of my mouth. And 25 to 45 seconds of that is a huge grounding practice for me. And then the other piece is like putting my feet on the ground. Like, okay, I'm feeling really scattered. I've got 25 unopened emails, 17 text messages. I'm supposed to be eating dinner in 15 minutes. I don't even have what I need from the grocery store. It's like, right? Like how many of us have these moments? It's like, okay, just let me put my feet on the ground for a moment. Let me just get grounded in my body. Is there any part of my body right now that feels pleasant? Notice that. Spread that, where do I feel grounded? Let me just like lean up against the wall or sit down on the ground and feel my butt, my sit bone supported from the ground or the chair or the bed or whatever. So again, just these little things to like drop in can be really, really helpful. And then I have obviously like I go for walks every day. I move every day. So I have a movement practice. It is a non-negotiable 20 minutes a day minimum to move my body. And so it can look different for everyone and you have to find what works for you. But if you don't know where to start with your breath because it's easy, it's accessible, and it's free.
And it works.
It works. Definitely.
I remember when I was playing field hockey in high school, like that was my first interaction with knowing that the breath actually works for like these high pressure scenarios. I had been meditating for a while, but it wasn't like sometimes we dissociate, like we think we do these things when we have all this time and I'm at a spa like environment. And that's when I like sit and relax, and we forget kind of the whole point is that it's when we are crazy, when we are like completely not knowing what we're supposed to be doing or how we should feel, or that we do feel terrible and we hate it, that's when the practice actually really needs to show up.
Yeah.
And I remember we were about to go into a game and someone was just like, let's just take like 10 really deep breaths in and out. And the deep breathing actually lowers, right, your stress hormones. And I just remember that, and it clicked in, and I was like, there's an actual thing you do, the physiology matters.
Yeah.
Like it totally connects to the thing you're thinking. And so I think we can engineer our way in or out of these things. But if we don't even know how we're feeling, then I do think that sometimes we get tripped up there. So I love those ideas of.
Well, and another piece of this too, and I don't know if this fully answers your question, but to piggyback on this, because you just said something that sparked something. I mean, you said sometimes we don't even know what we're feeling, or it's like, I'm in the crisis, right? Now I'm in the crisis being like, how do I get out? Right. So it's like, how are we also proactive? So this is a huge piece of embodiment. It's about being proactive. And I don't even want to say the word stress management, because it's not so much about stress management, but it's about just being proactive with ourselves. And so I am constantly scanning and tracking my sensations, which sounds a little like boring, but I know myself so well now that I know, okay, if my chest starts to feel tight, like I'm just so aware, like, okay, this is the precursor to like a headache, or this is a precursor to like a meltdown, or this is a precursor to, right? So like I can start to notice like, oh, I'm starting to feel that sensation in my chest. Okay, I know that oftentimes this can lead to XYZ. So what can I do right now? so that I'm not in like a full-blown panic or a headache or a migraine or, however the stress manifests in my body, because I've tracked for so long the different sensations and what they might mean. And so for a long time, I used to think that anticipation, like I would be anticipating or maybe excited about something, but because I didn't understand that sensation, I was labeling it as anxiety. And then thinking that I was anxious would make me more anxious. And then something that was actually excitement would turn into anxiety. And then starting to differentiate between, well, what does anxiety feel like in my body versus excitement versus anticipation allowed me to start labeling my experiences differently and started to reduce certain symptoms that I was having. So sometimes we don't know. And then we just label something what we think it is when that's not even what the experience that we're having is. And so it's even like slowing down to just notice, well, what do I even feel right now? Do I feel something in my body? Like, okay, what does stress feel like in my body? Like for me, it's like digestion, like serious digestion issues. So I'm like, okay, well, breath improves our digestion also. So it's just starting to like even track and feel like, what am I feeling in my body and just befriending it.
Yeah. And I think that the way we approach our bodies or the way we approach anything is an analogy for the way we approach other things in our life. And when you can have that level of curiosity about, I wonder why I feel this way, or I wonder why this always happens. And we start to track and we start to think and we start to become more aware, we make better decisions.
Right. Yep.
And that applies everywhere. Right? It's like, like when I did that and I didn't do that and that happened, maybe those things are all linked. And sometimes we're just so focused on one place that we don't even think it applies to the other, but sometimes it's the same pattern everywhere.
Yes.
And so I think that people probably have different opportunities. I think for me, there was a moment where it was like, I overrode the body because I was a machine and I can do anything if I put my mind to it. And there's that like pride in the high, right? From like winning and from getting across the finish line, and that, the concept of like, you're not supposed to leave anything behind, like it's supposed to be all out. And then it's about this like, there's this gradient. Not everything has to do that. Right. And not every life experience is meant to be, this huge push. And I think that for me, understanding that has helped with a lot of the burnout piece of being a little bit more selective. And if I wasn't doing that work, I wouldn't be able to do this work. Right. Like we have to make the space for us to have any of the other things we want in our life and to bring in. So with all of that being said, when you think about like your journey and your success, right? Of course, success is up to you to define, but when you think about the things that you feel proud of, what do you attribute that to inside of you?
I mean, real consistency. I think consistency is a big piece. And also like, this work, like this embodiment work, like really staying committed, even when it's hard. I've dealt with a lot of burnout in the past, adrenal fatigue, gotten very sick, realized I actually had an addiction to stress. Like my addiction wasn't work. My addiction was really being stressed out. Like if I wasn't stressed, I'd find something to be stressed about. Well, what does stress do to the body? We're releasing, cortisol, and we're releasing all these things. And there's a physiological response happening. And like I created almost like a chemical dependency somatically to these types of experiences. And so overcoming that, slowing down enough to say, wait, what's happening in my body right now? Because at some point I won't be able to sustain this level that I'm doing. Right. And I think you kind of said that as well. Like, we don't want to quit. We don't want to leave anything on the table. We have to push and go. And so, for me, I think consistency, but also consistency in slowing down, consistency in listening. What do I need right now? Do I need a break? Do I need to ask for help? Do I need to take less off my plate? And then really being a planner. So as much as I love flow in my life, and, people who maybe don't really know the inside scoop of what I do or who I am, they might go to a social media page of mine and be like, wow, she just like walks her dog all day and like goes to pretty places, kind of like what you said, goes to these beautiful tropical locations and, sits on the beach and takes a lot of photo shoots. And, there is a perception, right, that sometimes we show up on, but behind the scenes, there's also a lot of dedication. There is a commitment to my practice. There's a scheduling of my days, a scheduling of my week. There is, commitment to my meditation, therapy. I have a therapist that is a non-negotiable, right? So, making sure that I'm drinking enough water, like these things that we sometimes will forget to do, and really trying to find that balance in all the areas of my life. But the most important is being consistent with myself, not for anybody else. So I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm doing it for me. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, where for me, it's about showing up for myself, holding space for myself, and being present with myself. Because when I can do that, then I can be present with anybody, everywhere, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that skill is, to me, priceless, because it's what's really catapulted me in all my career. So I've been, we talk about like success, but when I think about even, when I was working a job or working in, in a corporate position or even in school, I don't want to say that I've always been the best, but I've always really excelled. And I've excelled because I've held space for myself to do that and to expand in that way. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that we can achieve a lot of success without that piece.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, if you're looking for the next level,
right.
It is sometimes undoing some of the ways that we've used all these other mechanisms to prop ourselves up with success. And that dismantling for many people, including myself, when it was happening, is probably some of the hardest things to do, because it almost feels for people who are used to a certain way of doing things and having control over the way things show up and the results they have in their life, pulling things back sometimes feels like the free fall.
Yes.
And I would say for me, and I would ask what it is for you, some of the hardest thing is to not do something. Like sometimes I feel like I have to sit on my hands to not do something, which people are like, I could just not do something all day long. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm going to embody that, right? Like I'm going to channel you in this moment and like have that. And I joke about it, but it's a real thing, because I think we all have certain tendencies that we prefer, or that we've been like acclimated to performing in many ways of our life. And I think when we're really trying to be curious and ask ourselves, what do we really want? We might have to take down some of those things too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is completely accurate. For me, it's funny because I've had success both ways. So I've had like the income success and the career success, very disconnected, very disembodied, very burnt out, very like hustle, grinding it out. Like you just work, and you go, and you hit that thing, and then you go to the next goal, and you hit that thing, and then you go to the next goal. But not recognizing myself or even really knowing who I am, like really losing that touch. And I think a lot of us that are high achievers have probably experienced this, or maybe are even experiencing it right now. Whereas like I had those moments where I looked in the mirror and I'm like, I don't even know who I am. I don't even recognize this person looking back at me. Like, what? And so then you have to say, at what cost? So sitting on the hands, right? Like saying like, okay, I'm not going to do this thing yet, can be really hard, especially when you feel really passionate about what you do. But I will ask myself all the time, is this thing in alignment? Does it pull me closer to where I want to be? And does it allow me to keep the balance in my life? Because the balance piece is really important. My family is important. Time for myself is important, right? Like if I'm just working all the time and there's nothing else in my life that's fulfilling me, then I have to ask myself why. And I had a mentor about a year and a half ago challenge me, and she said, I'm curious what you're running from. And I was like, oof. There were lots of things going through my mind that I wanted to say to her at the time, but she was right. Like, what am I running from? And slowing down, there was this fear of like, if I slow down, does that mean I'm failing? If I slow down, does that mean I'm going to lose this maybe momentum that I've created? Or if I slow down, am I going to miss out on an opportunity? And I'm an achiever and I excel and I like to create, right? And like, I have a big legacy and I have a big vision and I want to live into that. And so, you know, again, I have to ask myself at what cost? And what I don't want to do is ever go back to the place where I was totally disembodied from my work. And so now I'll ask myself, like, is it in alignment? Does it feel good? What does it feel like in my body? You know, and notice too, when the resistance comes up to slowing down. So again, the more that we can like really drop in and understand, these questions become easier to answer for us. So that's been like a huge game changer. But yeah, it is hard. I have to sit on my hands sometimes too. And I'm like, I have all these ideas, but I also know like, okay, if I implement all these ideas right now, what does that jeopardize my balance? And what are my non-negotiables? You know?
Yeah. And I think that's where the accountability comes in. Mm-hmm. That's where having something that is a non-negotiable comes into play. You know, people sometimes say, like, I don't know how you're doing this with blah, 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 and blah, and blah. And I'm like, it is actually hard. Like, it's not like that was easy.
Right.
It was like, no, like I have to have difficult conversations about stuff. I have to, you know, it doesn't all just fit in magically.
Right.
And so sometimes things come up and I have to be like, do I say no? Right. And what does that look like? And then the fear, right? And one of the things you were mentioning that I love is this idea of, you know, is this for the highest good?
Yeah.
Right. Like kind of applying it through a filter. And it used to be like, for that person, yes.
Right.
And I'm going to go all in for that person. Like, I want my boss to look amazing, right? Like, I will do whatever it takes for this team.
Right.
But then it has to be like, is it good for me?
Mm-hmm.
And for you and for everyone, right? And because sometimes you're like, what example am I setting?
Yeah.
That this is the only way to do it. And it has to look like this crazy burnout pace. You want to be untouchable, right? Like no one else could work as hard as me. Therefore, it looks like this. But then it's like, but what if that means my daughter ends up going through the same thing? Like what I want. And then you're just like, oh,
yeah,
maybe it's not all worth it. And I think I had missed that for so long when I was just going after what was good for someone else, but not necessarily always good for me or for the people around me.
Yep. Well, and it's like at what cost, right? So it's like, even with like boundaries, I think about, and like boundaries in business, boundaries with saying yes, saying no, taking on too much, right? It's like when we jeopardize our own boundaries to meet the needs of somebody else, but then yet we're not meeting our own needs. And so this is, again, it's like we can circle this back to embodiment. It's like the more that we're in our bodies, the more that we understand the language of our bodies, so we can say, does this feel good? Yes or no? Yeah. What are my boundaries? What are my non-negotiables? What am I willing? What am I willing to do and not willing to do? And a lot of us are just always pushing away from what we don't want. And so in that, it's like we just create more resistance in our life. And that might show up as like overworking or, saying yes to everything or not having zero clue what we even want. Like how many people don't even know what they want?
Yes.
Right? Because they're just doing what they think they should, or they're doing, working so hard for someone else. Not that working for somebody else is a bad thing, but again, like, is it in the full embodiment of your highest good?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that when we come to this point in our lives where it's like, okay, we have the job, it pays the money, then it's a career because there's like a pattern of like the things and we're evolving. And then you're like, what is my vocation? Like, what is
Yes.
my calling? What am I here to do? It opens up like everything. And for some, myself included, it looked like I want to, start a business and do healing work, not because of the like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I remember saying very explicitly when I was young, I never want to do that.
Yes.
It's too much responsibility.
Yeah.
Careful what you say, you won't ever do. But I remember realizing like that was just a how. But the thing I wanted was to do the work. And I was just like, well, I'm just going to do the work. And it entailed me figuring it out this way because, that's what was available to me at that time. And so for those who are looking to do their own thing or are already doing their own thing, are getting into healing work, coaching work, because I know some people I work with are starting to be like, maybe I want to be a coach, or maybe, I want to do something like this. What advice would you give them? Or what kind of, because I always have like a million thoughts running through my head when people are like, I would love to do this kind of thing. Because there's just so much, right, from the journey that, people have to experience on their own. But what words of wisdom do you have, given that you've had quite a bit of time being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship is by far, hands down, one of the hardest things I have ever done. And I've done quite a few things, I haven't jumped out of a plane or anything like that, not a skydiver, but like I've done a lot of hard things. And I think the main reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, you're dependent on you. Like I don't want to say there's no guarantee because you could I have created an extremely stable business that has grown, that I know has longevity, that, can survive difficult things. Like I do know that, and I've experienced that, and I believe that, and it's taken a lot of work. It is possible, but there's always in the background a tinge of uncertainty because we're dependent upon ourselves. And so, for anybody, when I have clients come to me and they're like, I want to start a coaching business, or I want to, whatever, I want to create a product line. It's like, okay, how committed are you? Like truly, how committed are you? Because when we're saying yes to entrepreneurship, what we're saying yes to is becoming a CEO, a business owner, a president of a company, the boss, the head honcho, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's virtually at the end of the day, what you're saying yes to. And so, I think getting clear first of like, is this just a side thing because I want to just do it, and like it's not going to really be like a full income, I'm just doing it just because it's something I feel called to do, versus like, is this what you're doing to like walk away from your career and replace your income and then exponentially grow it? And depending on what that answer is going to depend on you have to be committed either way. But like, if this is something where you're saying like, I want this to be my career and I want to, either walk away from my job or eventually walk away from my job, like you got to be willing to go all in. And sometimes there's going to be a little bit of unbalance in your life. And I think, just being okay with that. And so I don't believe in a hustle, but I do believe in a healthy hustle. And I think that there are going to be elements where you're going to have to be in a healthy hustle, and you're going to have to make investments in yourself and into your business that might not have a return right away. And that can be really scary for people because, there's not a guarantee in the beginning. There really isn't. And you have to be okay with that. And so I tell people, be okay with a slow burn in the beginning, but you can make it a very lucrative business if you are consistent. I was always steady, super, 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 super consistent. So I didn't work crazy hours, but I worked really effectively in the time that I was working. And so I was very diligent and very structured and very planned. And I believe that's why it happened my business grew very quickly. Within about 18 months, I was, a pretty large business. But those 18 months was a lot of swear words and tears and late nights and what am I doing? And this was a horrible idea. And a lot of investment. I invested a lot into myself in the beginning. I still do, but it's a little bit easier now than it was then.
Yeah. And I think that, sometimes when I'm unsure or feeling like, oh gosh, here it is again, I think that not the only, but one of the number one things that keeps me going is the belief, right? Like I have to remember that like my number one job is to believe.
Yep.
To believe it can be done, to believe I will do it.
Yep.
To believe I must do it, right? And that it's possible. And, if I have that, then it's like, okay, like, let's get back on the horse and we're going to go again. But I do think, not everyone probably feels like that persistency and consistency is their strong suit.
Yep.
So how would you, talk to those people who may have a hard time even just getting started, or the inertia, right? Like we're saying, oh, we have trouble and we're like sitting on our hands, but I bet there's a ton of people out there who are just like, I need some of that energy so that I can get the things out. Yes. So yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. I mean, you have to know why you're doing what you're doing, right? Like I mean, it's kind of cliche, right? You hear like, oh, start with your why, or what is your why? But I think you have to know why are you doing it? Like, what is that bigger thing that's pulling you, right? I mean, we hear like Tony Robbins saying like your vision has to pull you. Like you have to be pulled by why you're doing what you're doing. So for me, I have a huge vision, right? I have a huge, huge vision for what I want to do and the legacy I want to leave behind. And not just the legacy when I'm no longer here in this physical human form, but the legacy I want to leave in every human interaction I have with somebody. And so that pulls me forward. That keeps me going. That ignites my fire when I'm exhausted. And, when I started my business, living paycheck to paycheck and on savings and credit cards in my
Guys,
little,
this is real, FYI.
Yes, like my little teeny apartment, recording audio trainings in my closet because it was the only place I could go that was quiet. Like, let me tell you, that vision board was hanging up in my bedroom. Those visions were journaled out in my journal. Like I went to sleep with them on my nightstand every single night. Like the vision in my mind and my meditation was very palpable. And I took the action though, but this is where the comes in, right? So like, I didn't just write those things down and then hope that it was going to happen. I wrote those things down and then I took action every single day, even when I didn't want to, because the question was either stay in my current reality or do something about it. And so I would do something about it. And if I didn't know what to do, I'd say, well, I would, what's one thing I can do right now? What's one thing I can do right now? What's one thing I can do right now? And even if that meant I only took one action a day, and then maybe some days I took 10 actions, but I didn't let a day go by where I wasn't taking at least one action that got me closer to where I wanted to be. And there were some days where I felt like I was never going to get there. I mean, I can remember crying in the closet and saying to my husband, I would go in the closet because we lived above at the time, when we moved out to San Diego. It was really funny. We had no idea the cost of living, right, from where we came from. So we get out to San Diego. We lived in a hotel for a month, and we found this place to live. We were in this cute little cottage, and I could spare you all the details, but we ended up with black mold, so we had to move, and so we moved into this other place, and the only thing we could find was this mother-in-law suite above this woman, and sweet, wonderful woman, love her dearly, but there was no privacy. I felt like we had no privacy. So we would have these intense conversations around finances. And I'm like, well, we can't let her hear us or she's going to think we can't pay rent. So we would go into the closet. We would have these conversations in the closet because, the clothes, and it was like a buffer and sound, and just sobbing, saying like, when is it my turn? When is it going to happen for us? Like we were both, my husband was an entrepreneur as well, but like, when is it going to happen for us? How long are we going to have to grind it out? And but I just was like, just keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. So there has to be a level of commitment, even when you're not seeing the result. And I think that's the hardest part, right? Because, we want that instant gratification, but you got to keep going and have that vision, have that thing, have that reason. Like I have a really huge vision and legacy an imprint that I want to leave on this world. And it is huge and it's big. And some people are like, huh? But that's the thing. It pulls me forward. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. That's the thing that keeps me going. So you have to have that thing. And if you don't have it, get it. And I tell, and you know this, May, because I say this all the time, it needs to move you. Like you need to be moved. You need to be moved emotionally. You need to be moved by tears. That's the embodiment piece. You have to feel that vision with every cell in your being. So, the surrender
that
and the
emotion is so attractive.
Yeah,
it is, right? Like the realness of you.
Yeah, people need to feel that, So,
and I think, sometimes people think it's only one thing, but your business has changed. Hasn't your vision changed over time? And you let it be okay. Because sometimes I think people think, I have to get it right this one time. This is like my only chance. And that's what keeps people from starting, because they are paralyzed by this idea of it being perfect versus just start with something and then figure it out. And if you don't really, you could stop, you could, if you wanted to. But
no, my vision has evolved. In fact, I found this newspaper article back from 2010. And I was in the running for a grant through Pepsi. Actually, it's really funny. Some people might remember this, but 10 years ago, 11 years ago now at this point, Pepsi was doing this thing called the Pepsi Refresh Grant or something. And they were giving grants away for businesses. And I had applied and I actually was fourth place. I came in fourth place, but it was only first and second that got the prize. So I was going for a $250,000 grant. And at the time I had my therapy practice and I was doing autism consulting. And the vision was I wanted a retreat center in Hawaii for families impacted by autism. Now, this has been a vision for a very long time. And my big vision still, part of that is building this retreat center, having this retreat center. And it's changed and evolved in terms of who it will serve and how it will show up. And there's so many other elements to it now. But the core of the vision is still the same. But how I'm getting there is different. Right? What it looks like is different. And there's other elements now, and their vision's even bigger than it was then. And that was 11 years ago. So it's not a matter of when, if things happen, it's just a matter of when. And then giving yourself permission to let that evolve, as you evolve, because your vision will, and hopefully should change as you change,
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because, and I didn't know that you had wanted to do a retreat center. But I remember when I was trying to figure out, what I should do, years ago, and I was making that switch to coaching, I'd always had wellness or hospitality and all that thing. And I remember thinking I just want to have a retreat center.
Yeah.
And I think that's also one of the reasons I gravitated towards you. Obviously, there's the whole energetics piece of you don't even know beforehand why, right? People need, but there's something there and there's some kind of alignment there. And so when I remember you saying, and I have this vision of this retreat center, I was just well, of course she does.
Me too.
I was that's so amazing. And so I do think that sometimes you think you're the only person in the world that ever wants to do something. So you're some weirdo out there that has some thoughts, but there might be other people who want to do the same thing. And I think that when you do speak your truth, you allow others to do the same.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And I think that's a big part of the embodiment too. If you don't feel that you're safe to do all these things or empowered enough to have that really come through, right, to share it, then other people miss out on what could have inspired them. And been you walk on your journey and others are inspired by the journey you're on, the same way someone else has been inspired by the journey that other person is on. So this collective ripple effect, I think, is just a huge part of, this embodiment work.
Absolutely. It's a game changer. I keep saying this is going to be the work that changes the world. I believe it. So I just got to keep talking about it, get more people curious, more people on board.
Oh my gosh. All right. So thanks so much for being on today. But before we wrap it up, and I know we could talk forever on this, because there's so many things, which is why we came on in the first place. Because I've been talking to Andee about this forever, because I think aside from our coaching together, I could probably have many conversations with this woman about all the things and ideas and all the stuff. But I'm just so grateful to have crossed paths with you, and honored to have you as part of my life too. So thank you for being the leader and showing up and doing the work that you've done to enable people like me and many others that work with you to keep going on their journey and to keep having someone who shows them the way. All right. So the one question I want to ask you is, what do you think you're here to learn, and what are you here to share?
Yeah. Ooh, so this is a good one. So my first thought is to just be present. Like really, like it almost goes back to like the beginning of our conversation. Like I really think that like what I'm here to learn is like how to be really embodied in each moment.
Yeah.
So that I can just really hold people. So how do I just be embodied in the present moment, like back into that like total vibration of love that we enter into this world in. And then in terms of like, what am I here to teach? Is that it?
To share. Yeah.
To share. I think it's that, to share that energy with people. I really deeply, deeply, deeply love authentic connection. Whether that's like gazing at someone walking down the street, or a hello at the grocery store, or asking someone genuinely like, how are you today? And like listening to their response. Like those are the things for me that make life worthwhile. And so, so I think that's it. I think that's it. I think that's what my purpose is.
I love it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And you do live it. So,
Thanks.
I think that is the embodiment word.
Yep.
All right. So where should people go and find you if they're interested in learning more, if they want to work with you, if they want to do your mastermind, go on retreats with you, do the Love Vibe Facilitator and learn how to host retreats and do SoulFlow and learn a lot more about the embodiment method? Where should they find you?
Well, I'm always on the Instagram. So I do love Instagram. So you can go there and find me there. And I think you'll have my handle listed somewhere for everybody.
Yeah. At Andee Love, ANDEELOVE. And then I think there's a underscore at the end.
Yep. Yeah. So at Andee Love _. And I'm always there, just like, you'll get to meet my dog and you'll get to see the sunset or the sunrise. You'll know what I ate for breakfast if I share it that day. But I really just like to kind of get to know people over there. And obviously I'm always sharing little tips and stuff. And then my website is listed there as well. So people can just go right there. It's andeelove.com. And on my website, you can see different ways that you could work with me, or just read a little bit more about who I am and what I'm doing. And it's always changing. So what you might click on that website today, if you go to it in a week from now, it may be different, because I do believe that we are always becoming. And so that's where you can find me. That's where I'm hanging out.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time again, Andee.
You're so
welcome.
Love
you so much. And, we'll share all the links in the show notes so you guys can go check her out and go follow her for some, amazing embodiment inspiration and a real authentic connection on social media, which sometimes we are lacking a little.
Yes.
All right.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So wasn't that just so good? I loved that conversation, how real it was, and hopefully we talked about some of the topics that are on your mind today. So go find Andee, show her some love, and follow her on all the social media areas. And I want to wish you guys a most wonderful week. If you are not signed up already, on January 30th, I am hosting the Design Your Day workshop. It is a free workshop. I highly encourage you all to sign up for it. You will get a ton of value about how to bring clarity into your daily experience, how to simplify and start to amplify your progress towards your goals. So if you're interested in what I do to help design my day on a day-to-day basis, you can sign up at www.mayemson.com/designyourday and join in on the fun. Hope to see you there. Have a wonderful week. Love you all. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.